Hey everybody, welcome to another video. We're on week 17 of our Marvel comic review, I guess, chat, whatever you want to call it. We're looking back. And now this is not week 17 of 2025, this is week 17 of 1985. So we're going 40 years back to the week, and we're going to talk about the Marvel comics that came out that week. Do I have anything to we are getting, this is the last week of April, so we're kind of getting into the spring here. Well, we're into the spring, but kind of getting into the, I guess would be the second quarter of, or again, we're a month into the second quarter of this year. Remember, we're talking, like I said, it is 2025 today. We're talking about 1985. Just wanted to clarify that. And the whole point of this is to look back. I mean, this is when I started collecting comic books when I was a teenager. I technically wasn't even a teen yet, I was a tween. I didn't turn 12, which I guess technically a teenager is 13, because it has teen in the word. But I didn't turn 12 until the July of 1985. So right now we're talking, I'm still in 6th grade in elementary school, and yes, 6th grade was in elementary school at that time. And looking at the summer vacation coming up, and eventually going to junior high, not middle school, junior high, which is 7th through 9th the following year. That's how it was back in the 80s. It technically changed. I was the first year of my school in the whole area to go to a 9th grade at the high school, because the high school was only 10th through 12th. And then I got robbed of being a 9th grader in junior high. I had to go be a 9th grader and start all again fresh in high school. So, but again, we're not getting that we're getting too ahead of ourselves. We got to go back to 1985. So. And again, I'm doing Marvel Comics because primarily Marvel Comics was what I read and what I collected. That's what got me into comic books. I had a few DCs here and there, and that reminds me, I knew I'd have to do a DC April 1985 here, probably do it sometime this week. And then we'll get that one out of the way. And we're not going week by week with that one. We're just going to do a blanket month with that. But let's get into it here. So I'm going to go over to my site that I use, which is the fandom.com. And again, the easiest way to find this site is I've got I have like one of the weeks bookmarked, and then I just go off of it using that little chart here, the links up top you see. If you can go to fandom.com, because there's lots of different fandoms, and it's very hard to navigate, I found. Even if you hit the Explore button and you try to look for like Marvel Comics by week or whatever, it's really hard. So what I suggest is go to Google, pick the current week you're in, say, and then go back to a year. Or you can even do it now too. I think this is current. It goes up to current. Or whatever year you want to pick. But pick like, Marvel Comics week 17 of 1992, right? Put that in. You should get to a page that looks like this, and then put fandom in. Put fandom so it goes specifically to this site. And I think this is a Vine. I think it's like all these sites. I'm not super well versed in the nuts and bolts of this. Like I said, I found it by accident, and I was like, oh, this is really cool. This is like the information I always wanted to have, because again, if you're looking back on back issues, whatever year it is, and you look at the date, let's say it says number 200 and, I'm making up a number, 250 of Fantastic Four, right? And let's say it says, January. Again, I'm making this date up. This isn't actually a Fantastic Four issue. There is a 250, but I don't know if it's January. But we're going to January, and then it says like, whatever the year is. It usually doesn't say the year. You kind of have to look up or go to the indicia on the first splash page. But if it says January, I would say 9 times out of 10, that comic did not come in January of that particular year. That comic came out probably in the fall of the previous year. So, because they're always ahead of themselves. So, you know, if you've got like a bunch of comic books, or you've got CBRs or whatever you have, and you're putting them in an order, and you're like, oh, I'm going to put all the 1985s in here because this is January 1985, and I'm going to put January through December. That isn't actually how they came out. I mean, I guess it's fine if you want to do that. I mean, it's close if you want to be, but if you want to be super accurate, go to this site, because this is the actual week that the comic actually came out, and that's cool. I find that kind of neat. It's, like I said, it's confusing, but it's just how it was. So, you know, we had, it's the way it is today. I'm pretty sure that, I haven't really looked, to be honest with you, but I don't think current comic books, the print date on the cover, I don't even know if they can put the month anymore, for that reason probably, but let's say, you know, a new, I don't want to dig one out at the moment, but I think new comics are, I don't think they have the month. I could be wrong. I haven't paid attention, really, to tell you the truth. But let's go back to this. This is going to be 1985. We're on April 24th. Today is what, I'm doing this a week ahead of time. I'm doing this a week ahead of time, so in case I miss a week. So this technical will post next week on the actual day. So I think, what is it? The 23rd is next Wednesday of 2025. So far it's been a day off pretty consistently. I don't know if that's always the case. I've never really thought about that. I would assume, is that true? I mean, something's got to, I mean, leap year does something to things, or whatever date. We lose a date? I don't know. Aliens come, freeze time, I don't know. But anyways, it's a day off. So next Wednesday will be the 23rd when this is posted. But if we go back to 1985, week 17 comics came out on the 24th, which was a Wednesday. Let's go and look through here. So, first thing I got to say about this week is this was a painful week. And, I mean, I guess it wasn't overly painful because I didn't read a lot of these. And if you've been watching these videos for the last month or so, I started out pretty strong reading almost everything. And as you can see, and I said this in the last few videos, that my taste is starting to dwindle down to a very small amount of comic books. And I said this before, I'll say it again. This goes to today. The only thing is, today Marvel's putting a lot more comics out than they did in 1985 per month. So, you know what? I'm looking at it. I don't know if they do, or I'm gonna have to count this up. I'm gonna go at some point, not now in this video, but I'm gonna go and I'm gonna count up all of the Marvel comics that came out in a given week, and then I'm gonna go back to the counterpart 40 years ago in 1985 and see if it's how many comics are coming out. And I'm gonna count. I'm not gonna count the Marvel UK books, but I'm gonna count the Epic comics, and I'll count the Star Imprint comics, just because it's kind of all blanket Marvel. And then we'll see how many comic books came out in a given month. Because the reason I say this is because the little subscription cards that I get, which, by the way, all my subscriptions have currently run out, they're about the same. If you look at those subscription cards that used to be in the back, which wasn't a card, but the last page of the old comic books, and they give the different titles you could subscribe to for like $8, $6. Now it's like 30. But they're about the same. I mean, they got the premiums, they've got the regular standards. I would say they're roughly around the same. I know that the problem is nowadays there's so many limited series and crossover events and stuff, and that wasn't the case back then. But I think if you look at core titles, I think they're about the same. So that in that regard, this is pretty accurate. So if I'm only reading 5 comic books currently a month of Marvel, that's about what I read back then. And as you'll see, I mean, we're already through April here, and you know, if you watched my old videos, you'll see which ones that I picked up. And of course, I usually end the video and I tell you what comic books I actually picked up off I keep saying spinner rack. I'm getting kind of tired of saying spinner rack. I know it's a trendy thing. Everybody who romanticizes about comic books, and especially people who didn't read comic books then, they always like to talk about the spinner rack. I love when I see like people like 20 and like going, oh yeah, the spinner rack. Yeah, you weren't alive even remotely when a spinner rack was. The direct market was probably 10 years in by the time you were more than that. Like 15 years in, the direct market, the newsstand was gone by the time that you are, were born, let alone reading comic books. So I love it. I just love when I see young people, they're young millennials or they're Gen Zers, and they go like, oh yeah, the spinner rack. Yeah, it's like me saying, I was born in 1973. It's like saying, oh yeah, back when I had a phonograph, when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor, I mean, what do I know about that? Outside of history. Same thing with these people. I find it funny. And I don't think anybody of my age would even remotely even talk like they're like, oh yeah, back in the day when, on D-Day. Right. So, back when back when Elvis, broke, the Beatles came and invaded, Yeah, still can't talk to that. Kiss? Sure. I was alive then. But anyways, sorry, I keep getting off on tangents. Let's get back into this. So, as you can tell, you could pause it here and you could probably make a prediction that which comic books that I'm even going to vaguely even look at. Now, we've already established, again, we'll take out the UK magazine. We'll take out all the Star imprints. So, Strawberry Shortcake, Sectors, Planetary, don't even consider those. Now let's take away all the Epic. So take away Dreadstar and Company and take away Starstruck. We should be just left with, and then I don't know, this Life of Captain Marvel, I don't remember that coming out. So we'll leave that off the table. So we're just looking at Daredevil, Doctor Who, which did come out here. Again, Fraggle Rock, no. Gargoyle, New Mutants, Rawhide Kid, Red Sonja, even its extended universe, Red Sonja, The Thing, and Web of Spider-Man. So that's 8 comics. What I only pulled up 4 to read for this week, and I only finished 1. So which 4 do you think? Pause it here. I'll tell you in a second, but just pause it here and decide which 4 comics did I pull up to read, and then which comic do you think is the only one I got through? Okay, so let's flip over. So if you said these 4 comics, you're right on that. So Daredevil, The New Mutants, The Thing, or just, I guess it is The Thing, and Web of Spider-Man, right? So I think that excludes the Gargoyle, because I could barely make it through that Gargoyle #1. I didn't want to read another one. Rawhide Kid, I'm not into Western stuff, so we can throw that out the table, or out the window, whatever. And what else was there? Let me just see real quick. What else was there? So we excluded Gargoyle. Red Sonja. I couldn't find. I don't like that art. I didn't really, even I think is it Bud Plant? I can't remember who does the original Red Sonja. I can't remember what the guy's name is. I didn't really like that much either. I just thought his art was very not messy, but just too crammed or too dense. I don't know. I just didn't like his stuff, and I didn't like the way he does Red Sonja's face. I know I'm committing sacrilege because people love that person. Just like people love Barry Windsor Smith's Conan. I hate Barry Windsor Smith. I don't hate the guy. I just don't like his artwork. So anyways, but again, I couldn't find the Red Sonja, so I couldn't even read it if I wanted to. So we're going to go down to Daredevil, New Mutants, Thing, and Web of Spider-Man. Okay, I started reading all 4 of these comics. So let's pause again. Which comic do you think I actually made it through? Give it a minute, or a second. Okay, unpause. If you said The New Mutants, you were completely right. The New Mutants was the only comic of these 4 that I actually made it through the end. I started reading Daredevil. Let's pull up Daredevil. Let's go to their full screen. There we go. And here's the thing. And maybe this taints my reading Daredevil. I liked I liked the last issue of Daredevil. I enjoyed it. Came around time to read Daredevil again. The problem is, in between that time, I was watching the Daredevil new show. It's on Disney Plus, and I stopped watching it. I think on episode 5, so 6 and 7 I haven't watched, because at the end of 5 I was just kind of shaking my head, going, I don't know if I can get through this. It's really boring. Nothing's going on. He's. How many times have we seen him say, "I'm never going to wear the costume again," to wear the costume again? But in order to do that, he has to go like the entire season without wearing the costume, because wearing the costume costs money and is hard to shoot, and people think it's hokey. So it just becomes a courtroom drama, weird kind of, I don't even know what to even compare it to. I didn't like it. I started liking it, but then I just got bored with it. I'm like, I'm not going to fall for this again. No, I'm out. I'm tapped out. And so when it came time to read the comic, I was just like, I don't know who the artist is either. I mean, the Denny O'Neil story, that's fine, but I don't really know who the artist is. It's not bad art at all. That's a great metal panel. Nice use of the black for the interior of that office. That's a nice sharp move, especially heavy contrast with his red, I think, and then doing the lighting. I think the artwork's fine. I don't know who the artist is. I mean, I've heard of him, but I don't really know who he is. This panel where he's jumping onto that sign, that looks really nice. Nice perspective there. You got that silhouette. I mean, it's put together really well. I mean, Foggy looks a little odd, but other than that, great bottom panel. It's probably definitely photo refed off maybe a National Geographic or something, or a travel magazine, but that plane is definitely not photo refed up there, because it is a weird looking plane. I think some of these, especially some of those, I think they're either travel magazines or whatnot, but he's going through Venice. I think the artwork's fine. He's fighting this big, I'm assuming it's just a knight in shining armor, probably a robot. I didn't read it, so I couldn't tell you, but he fights this thing. So the thing is, he's in the costume, though. And it's a great costume, and it looks great, and he's doing these flips and stuff. I think he doesn't, that's the thing, is he doesn't do any flips in the, he does a few jumps and uses his baton thing, swingy thing. But you don't see him doing, like, handstands off of, like, building tops and stuff in the show, which is, he did all the time. I mean, he'd do a lot of the swan dives off of a building and then, catch something and then come down, like that. I mean, there you go, right there. He's just doing this back dive, swan dive, backward swan dive, reverse cowgirl, I don't know. Anyway, he's doing that, jumping off there, to avoid getting hit by the knight as he's lunging forward, this really weird I guess he's coming down, but you think you'd do if he's coming down, he might have hit him. Of course, if he's over to the side, I don't know, it's just a weird kind of like coming forward shot. It looks fine with that horizontal panel, and then of course he's breaking the panel, so he's doing the dive from the one panel and then recovers, and then of course you see that he catches his baton ropey thingy, grappling hook. He catches it on that, whatever that is, that little guy there. I can't remember. They have a name, and I can't remember their name. And then then the knight goes over after him and doesn't make it. It's a nice page. It looks great. It's a great classic Daredevil page. Again, nice shot of the entire. Again, and the other thing I said this going into Daredevil before is, it's so Catholic. I'm not Catholic. I'm not anything. And I have nothing against Catholics or Catholicism at all. I'm just saying, it's just, when it's real heavy Catholic, it really just gets on my nerves. I don't mean that in disrespect to anybody who's Catholic. I mean, it's very Catholic, and it's just like, and when it's in my entertainment and it's so Catholic, it just, which, you know, is probably 60% of Daredevil is the whole Catholic thing. You know, Catholic in New York, it's just like, it kind of gets on my nerves. I said that. But anyways, it does more than that. Just rubs me the wrong way. Burns my buns. I don't know. But again, I think the art's great. I think the art's nice. Obviously, this person's probably is a Conan artist or something. That's why they went to this setting, because it's a very fantasy setting. Even though it's Daredevil, you know, it's obviously this artist did not want to, or they figured, oh, we're not going to set this in New York. Let's get a fantasy artist to do this. It's neat. I mean, the comic looks neat. I just couldn't get through it. I just got like 3 pages into it, and I was like, oh, I don't want to sit through this. So that is the Daredevil. Sorry, I didn't say the number of the comic either. Let's go back. It is number 221. Now, see, remember, we're still talking about April. Think about how far that is. We're talking about April of 1985, but it's April now in 2025. And look at the cover date, August. I mean, that's pretty far out in the year. So that tells you the gap that we're talking about here. And of course, we'll save the New Mutants for last, since it's the one I did get through. Let's hit the thing real quick. It's also August. I think, are these all August? August. And August. Yep, they're all August. Okay, so that shows you it's pretty consistently off that far. This Thing comic, I never really got it as a kid. So there's a clue right there. I didn't get this one. I only got a few, and I gotta say, the Thing on his own, you need Johnny Storm there to be bouncing stuff off of. You need his girlfriend was Alicia Silverstone, no, Alicia Masters, is that her name? Is the blind girl. You need her kind of there. You need the threats. You know, or if She-Hulk's there, it's cool. Unless you put him in that situation with the Grapplers, and I like that, because, you know, the Grapplers are all these big, tough female wrestlers, you know, and I'm not saying they're like promoting like pure feminism, but, you know, I mean, they're coming off as one of these tough chicks. You know, we don't need this guy, this rock guy, you know, coming in and you know, she's telling us what to do, you know. So it's kind of that whole play, you know, where he keeps calling these broads, you know, and then they get this animosity with the Grapplers. But that's such a small part of this comic. I mean, the Grappler issues, there's maybe, what, like 6 total, I think. I like those, but these other ones, especially these throwaway issues, the girl's cool looking, I like her. But some of these throwaway issues where it's just like, you know, Ben's trying to get somewhere, ha 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 ha. I mean, that joke's only funny for so long. Oh, look at that, he's got his American Express card, don't leave home without it. You can leave home without it. Yeah, you know, he goes to this circus carnival thing, and you got the freak show. You know, there's the irony. You know, he's the freak, or he thinks he's the freak. You know, that type of thing. He's gonna slap that blonde girl in the butt down there. That's what it looks like. A very old school draw. It's very Johnny Quest with him, with Raji, whatever his name is. I don't know the character's name. I didn't read this one. But then the girl looks very Golden Age. I would put her in like Golden Age comics, you know, and I'd put him in like a Silver Age kind of like Johnny Quest kind of vibe with these characters. I mean, the art's not bad. I mean, he does, I mean, you got the curvy, big blocky, no pun intended, you know, heavy blacks on the boot. Kirby would do. You know, he kind of started all of that. Yeah, you can see, yeah, look at that face. You can really see, if Taskmaster shows up, you can really see this guy's influence, the artist, with this one. You can tell he's either, I mean, I don't know, like I said, I don't know how old the guy was. He might even have been around during the Golden Age. He might be an old-timer then. But this guy really likes his Golden Age. I mean, that girl right there, that's spot on Golden Age right there. the eyebrows like that. I personally love that too. I really like that. Like when, even though they got blonde hair, like sometimes you'll draw like the eyebrows to match the hair, right? Like a redhead or something like that, and they'll do like a red or an orange for the hair. And then you'll do the eyebrows and you'll outline them. But most of the time, it's that heavy black. And you know, if somebody's not a true blonde, they're not going to have real light eyebrows. I mean, I'm a true blonde, right? You can see my eyebrows are almost non-existent now at my age, because they're so light, thin, and the light. I mean, their hair's going white, so. But if she's not a true blonde, she's going to have darker eyebrows, and a lot of women today do that. But I mean, back then, they dye their hair platinum blonde, but they still have these dark eyebrows. Marilyn Monroe's a classic example. She was a brunette, and then did the platinum blonde, and then goes, gentlemen prefer blondes. Apparently, I'm not a gentleman. I don't dislike blondes. I like brunettes better, but I mean, I'm definitely not a gentleman. So let's keep going here. Yeah, the Taskmaster shows up. Blah 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 blah. I didn't read it. I'm just going off of what I'm seeing here. Oh, hello. Your panel up there with him in that. She's a lot taller than Raji there. Nice silhouette on her too. I mean, she's obviously the femme fatale in this. Going with the old school nomenclature, the titular, as it were. Sorry. But I could probably, maybe today I could, a few days ago when I started reading this, I was just like, I don't even think I got in. I might have gotten in a couple of pages. I remember getting to the Taskmaster page, so I should remember the Raji's name. I keep calling Raji. I don't know if that's Abu. I don't know who the guy is. The guy with the turban on, the Sultan of Swing, Sultan of Brunei. Let's see. Yeah. Anyways, so that's the thing. Let's move right along here. Now, I don't know if you remember my last Web of Spider. I did read the last issue. I did read last issue's Thing, by the way. But I read the last issue of, so I read number 4 of Web of Spider-Man. This is when Doc Ock shows up. Again, right off the bat, Web of Spider-Man started in the black costume. I think, yeah, because he was on the cover. It's the Concrete Jungle cover. Who's Jeff Johns, I think, did the cover. I might be wrong. And then you've got, so Web of Spider-Man, I always thought he was always in his black costume, but he's not. I don't like that. I wanted to see the black costume. It was that time. I mean, I don't dislike the red and blue costume. It's fine. I mean, it's classic Spider-Man. It's what I started with. But when I saw that black costume, show up, as you can, I'll move my head. I got the poster over there of when he first shows up. That's one of the reasons I got into comic books, was because of the Secret Wars and that black costume. It's like, that is so cool looking. So, just blew my mind seeing that as a kid. So, anyways, Doc Ock shows up. I can't remember exactly what he did. I think, did he start an earthquake or something? I can't remember. Or is that a rehab? I can't remember what the old. That's how unmemorable it is. But I remember him showing up. So now he's in this. And again, I know he's a classic Spider-Man villain. For me, going all the way back to the 60s cartoon I used to watch in reruns back in the late 70s and even into the early 80s. I gotta say, I never was a huge Dr. Octopus fan. I think I said that in the last one. He's okay. And I don't like the way he's portrayed sometimes. I don't know. It's kind of cool, the arms. And like I said, Shrinky Dinks, Presto Magic. I remember just color forms, all the different stuff that I had of Spider-Man. And Dr. Octopus was so prevalent. One of his classic villains, probably his second most classic villain to Green Goblin. I guess I would say it goes Green Goblin, Doc Ock, maybe Lizard, Electro, or Electro and Lizard might be interchanged. I don't know, but those definitely was top 5. Let's see. Green Goblin, Doc Ock, Vulture. Green Goblin, Doc Ock, Lizard, Electro, Vulture. The top 5 in the Spider-Man Rogues gallery. Out of those 5, although I love Green Goblin, so cool looking. You know, Electro's cool looking. I mean, Doc Ock's not. I don't like the Vulture. I never did. I really liked the Lizard. I thought that guy was cool. When I was a kid, I mean, that spoke to you. A big lizard guy with a lab coat, green pants. He's got green pants there. Dr. Octopus does. You know, who's the artist? Is this Jim Mooney? Yeah, Mooney's good. Okay, wait, what? Oh, what's right? No, you know what? They're talking about, I forgot there's a flashback in this one. That's starting to come back to me now. So the flash forward to current day, and he's got the black Spider-Man costume. That he's got the other costume hanging drying in the bathtub too. It's a very short robe he's got on. Yeah. That's classic panel there with the spider sense. And like I said, I also like this Peter Parker. That's the Peter Parker that I know, and that's the one that I grew up on. I didn't grow up on this Tom Holland Peter Parker, or this very small kid Peter Parker. I grew up on a guy in his early 20s who had a job, you know, and kind of went to school, student/job, lived in New York in this crappy apartment, which is nicer than my apartment. Yeah, I know. Again, I don't know why I didn't get through this comic. I think it was just when I saw Dr. Octopus, I was just like, no, Dr. Octopus. Is that what's her face? Is that what's her name? I don't know. I think it's just some woman at the bank. I thought it was Betty Brant. I don't think it is. If I read the comic book, I would know. It's good art. The tentacle's a little too close to that panel border there, but I mean, obviously, it's when you're drawing on bristle board, it's kind of hard to change things up a little bit, but I guess it just comes down to I just don't like Dr. Octopus, and even if the comic's fine, see, he's got this costume on again. What's going on that? They all look like Betty Brant. No, it is Betty Brant. Yeah, because they're in the Daily Bugle. Because there's see J. Jonah Jameson doing a Parker. Yeah, there he is there. I don't know who the other brunette is with Betty Brant's hair, but that's Betty Brant. Betty Brant and what's her name? Do they? No. Anyways, 18. Just flip to the last page. There you go. That's the end. Is that what's her face? Is that Mallory Book? Oh, no, that's a reporter. That's not Mallory, or not Mallory Book. What is She-Hulk's boss's name? Mallory Book, isn't it? I can't remember. This is a reporter. Again, I would know if I read the comic. But he rescues her at the end, blah, 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 blah. Okay. That was Spider-Man. So let's skip down to the comic book I did read. Now, I got through it not because I'm in love with the New Mutants. Again, I've always had a weird kind of hot and cold with the New Mutants ever since I learned who they are. And yet, funny thing was, it didn't even hit me until maybe like the second or third issue in that I had. Now, again, clue again to which one. I did not buy this one off the shelf. But I didn't know who they were. I'm like, oh, the New Mutants. And then it didn't dawn on me, oh yeah, they're mutants in the X-Men are mutants. Oh, so they're mutants like the X-Men. Oh, they're the new mutants. They're the team. Now, let me fast forward now to today. You've got the X-Men, and you got the Uncanny X-Men. I mean, you've got the other titles, but those two primarily. And you've got those new X-Men the young X-Men in there. At least I guess they're part of the team. You've got the girl with the horse, and the I like the one girl. What's her name? She's Asian. She's got the white bodysuit on the blue and red kind of pattern. I can't remember what her name is because she's not really that memorable. I mean, outside of what she looks like. The horse girl, which I can't remember her name. I just like to keep calling her Horse Girl. She likes horses because it's a long-term relationship she can control. Anyways, Horse Girl and the other girl, and then whoever the other guy. There's a goth guy or girl. I think it's a goth guy. And then there's they're boring, but they're essentially the New Mutants. And you've got like Tempest. And then, I don't like that one guy. Oh, the guy in the X-Men who's with Tempest. I can't remember what his name is. Is it just Tempest and him? I thought there was a third New Mutant. But regardless, right there you've got 3, 4, 5, 6. You got 6 characters, right? Why didn't they, because I know why they didn't, but they should have just started a New Mutants as part of the From the Ashes, and then put the New Mutant team on there. Now, they still could show up in the other books. They still could have been coached by the legacy older X-Men characters, because, Patrick Stewart, Professor X shows up again, and, or you could have had Magneto, whatever, or maybe even Kitty, because Kitty would always, because she was friends with Magic, she probably could have, besties they were. She could have, splintered off. Instead of, like, that group she's got going on with the Exceptional X-Men, she could have, done with these guys, and they could have just titled it The New Mutants. I don't know why they didn't. Instead, they're just basically incorporating New Mutants into the 2 X titles and the Exceptional X-Men, which is terrible. I don't know. I mean, I guess the reason why, of course, obviously, is the New Mutants book is not going to sell on its own, so we need to shoehorn these characters into these legacy titles because people are buying legacy titles. I guess I'm case in point. I'm buying legacy titles. But if they did put those characters in a New Mutants, like I said, they could have brought like Danny Moonstar back, and she could have been. I think she's in one of the comic books. She could have been like the leader. And kind of coach, she'd been like the new, leader and like, a mentor, and mentored all these younger mutants, Then they could have made special appearances by Wolfsbane, Magma, whatever. I think Magma's still alive, I can't remember. Some of them are dead, I think. But anyways, again, there's my beef on that. Again, we're back to the Bill Sienkiewicz art. Like I said, for the longest time, I did not like his art. Oh, I'm sorry. I need to do more cocaine. I see these people on YouTube, and they are just over the top coked up. I gotta get coked, like Hulk Hogan, Macho Man Savage, when they do like promos. You watch people's, just if they're young people, they're just all coked up in their YouTube videos. I need to coke up so I can stay awake long enough to do this video. Which hopefully doesn't last the whole hour. But anyways, what are we at? 38 minutes. We're getting close. So they're still going on with this whole, I can't remember where it is. This like gladiator place, underworld gladiator thing, show tournament thing, or whatever it's going on. I'm not explaining it well. Rachel Summers is in it too, and I really like Rachel. And then of course Kitty's in it. So there we go, Kitty's in it. And then Magic. It started out weird. It's like I didn't get the. It's like Magic's kind of gone a little nutty, and then Kitty grabs her sword and slashes her, and then it's enough to jar her back out of her senses. I don't know. I just didn't get that. I do not like. I like some of the stylizations. Like when things get weird and stuff, Sienkiewicz is great because he's an LSD freak. But when it comes to like, Kitty, who should look cuter than that. You know, I don't know. The faces are terrible. Too many heavy blacks. I know that's his thing. He liked to use a lot of heavy blacks. I mean, great panels, great composition and panel design. Nice page layout. Some of his page layouts are a little, you know, standard. But I mean, when he gets going, he does a lot of these open panels with white background. That's kind of neat. I mean, there's no reason to draw the rest of the gladiator pit there. You get the point. But I don't know what's going on with the Rachel Summers and the Huey Summers in the news with their her tie and her short sleeve shirt there. I don't know, it's the 80s or whatever, but she's got that short haircut. It makes her very masculine. I mean, she's not technically a lesbian at the time. I don't think she ever goes full bore lesbian. I don't think. I can't remember. You know, here's the thing is, I vaguely remember. I'm going to have to read again. I can't remember why I know she comes from the Days of Future Past. Rachel Summers being the daughter of Scott and an alternate version of Scott and Jean's kid. But I don't remember. I know she was in X-Men Annual 12? Or 14? 12? I can't remember. That's like 90, 91, maybe 92. I can't remember where'd she went. She was in Excalibur. And I didn't read all of Excalibur, so they probably explain where she kind of trottled off to at that point. Sorry. That's why I liked Excalibur, but I only made it through I only like the Alan Davis issues, and I don't think I made it through issue 12, after issue 12 of Excalibur. And then maybe I came back because there's an Alan Davis issue, but for me, obviously the artist really dictated what books that I read. I don't know, you know, it's funny. Well, we just saw in the Spider-Man comic, and we saw in the, maybe not the Thing, but maybe the Thing, I don't know. Some of those other comics, I don't know how I made it through this one, didn't make it through that one. Maybe it just a Dazzler, maybe it's just, I like the lady characters. You know, ever since, at this particular time, I was 11 years old, I wasn't 100% sold on the lady characters. I still like Wolverine and Colossus, and I like my dudes. But I would say probably by 13, going into 8th grade, out of 8th grade, in the middle of 8th grade, that's when puberty, I think, hit me big time. And then after that, through the rest of my teens, and of course all the way up to my 50s, but really so my teens, I was enamored with the female character. I love the female characters. It's all about the female. I mean, I like the dudes here and there, but I was all about Rogue and She-Hulk and Dazzler and, you know, the girls in New Mutants, and I guess I just really like the ladies. So that's probably why. And this one's chock full of them. I mean, there's only one dude. Oh, there's Sunspot and Cannonball. The rest of them are all girls. You know, and at the time, they were contemporaries. Well, a little bit older than me. Obviously, Dazzler's an adult. But I think, Kitty was, young adult, maybe 19 or 20. Magic and the other New Mutant girls, I think they were, high school age-ish. And me being, you know, going into high school, they were about my age. But, I don't, Rachel Summers with the tie and the shirt. She wants a new drug. One it won't spill. One it won't make her crash your car. Or however that song goes. I mean, she's a little feminine. She's a little feminine looking there, but otherwise she was very masculine. Whoa, Cannonball's head is big there. I know he's got a giant bean, but I don't think his bean's that big. The story's fun. It's an adventure story. You know, they go into limbo. I could see why New Mutants was popular, and I know there's a lot of people love Bill Sienkiewicz's art, so that's definitely something that made it popular. It's a fun book. I don't like it when they go crazy limbo for too long of a stretch. I like it kind of grounded a little bit more in like the real world, or whatever, the main, astral coil. Or celestial coil. Is it celestial coil? I can't remember. I'm thinking of a band or an album or song title. Anyways, yeah, I like the book. I just wish the artwork was a little better, Obviously, Kitty running away there, it's going through the portal. You get a nice butt shot of her, but he doesn't draw the butts very prominent. Oh, there's this character. I forgot about that character. This is towards the end, right? Oh yeah, Dazzler finally gets up there and sings. Again, spoiler alert, it's 40 years. I think we don't need to do a spoiler alert. On the flip side of that, that's the last page. On the flip side of it, I'm not going to go super into detail into the story, because I'd have to read it a few times to really get a lot of the nuances in there. And reading through this one once was kind of a slog. It was the only one I got through. So, in closing, well, first let's do I'll do my closing here in just a minute, because we're coming up on an hour. Let's go back to find out. So which comics did you guess that I read, that I was supposed to read? Which comic do you think I read? Now here we go. Which comic, you can pause again after I say this. Which comics do you think I picked up off the shelf in this particular week? Alright, you ready? Did not pick up Daredevil. Did not pick up Doctor Who. Nope. Dreadstar, again. Fraggle Rock, no. Gargoyle, no. I don't even remember that Life of Captain Marvel thing coming out. Obviously, the UK magazines didn't come out over here. New Mutants, I told you, it was the only comic I liked of this week, but it's a comic I didn't read. Planetary, no. Rawhide Kid, no. Red Sonja, no. Even, Sectors, I never had any of the toys. I never had one Sector toy, so I really didn't get into the show. The show only lasts like 5 episodes, but I didn't get into that. Starstruck, no. Strawberry Shortcake, what do you think? No. And I said no to the thing. Web of Spider-Man. Web of Spider-Man was the only comic I got this week. So what I would assume happened, and I can't remember 100%, is I probably went, either I picked up a DC comic to kind of get more than just one comic, because I think the Who's Who's had started by now. I might have picked up a Who's Who. Maybe I picked up an issue of Batman. But I definitely, I would say it's at least a 90% chance that I was at Rochester Book Center when I picked that up, which I'm pretty sure I was, and I probably picked up a couple of, I would assume I probably had at least $5 or $6 on me. I might have had a little more because I stopped to get a candy bar and a pop. I don't think the Wendy's was built yet. Was the Wendy's there? This tells you how far back in Rochester. I don't even know if Wendy's was there yet. I think it was still Buscemi's Pizza, which is right next door to Pizza Hut. That's probably why Buscemi's didn't do very well. They might have been a Wendy's by that time. I think it's still a Wendy's today. But I sometimes had stopped there, and then, or like I said, it wasn't until like the summer when I started going to Joe's Hobby Shop, which is in the other complex across from the high school. I started going to the Kubla Khan and getting my egg rolls and eating them, like walking or riding my bike home, eating egg rolls like candy bars. Yeah. So I usually had $5 or $6. Once in a while I'd grab a 10. I usually didn't grab, because I usually had shorts on. Maybe not at this time. In April, it was probably like this. I probably had a coat on. So I might have had more money with me. But usually if I just wore like shorts and a t-shirt, I didn't even have a wallet with me. I would take like a 5 and some 1s, or maybe a 10, and I'd roll it up and roll it into my sock, my sweaty sock. So when I give them the sweaty money, because that's how I would carry my money. So in the summer, I didn't like to carry a lot on me. Because I kept most of it in this cookie tin at home. But again, I mean, this is 85. Well, actually, it was more 80. That 84 summer. Woo! Did I make a lot of money mowing lawns? I don't think I was. I was still mowing lawns in 85. I think I had too many distractions. The skateboarding thing started soon. It's funny. The time I would have needed all my money that I blew on toys, action figures, a lot of Transformers, not a lot of Transformers, but a fair amount of Transformers, and stuff in the previous summer. Now would have been the time to have that money, because skateboards and radio control cars, the Tamiya radio control cars, they're not cheap. That's when I could have used all that money. But I think I had blown most of it by this time. But I think I was still doing a few lawns, because I think the O'Donnells still wanted me to do their lawn. I probably still did at least 5 lawns a week. That's still $50. So I had a pretty decent amount of money then too. Okay, so we figured out which comics that I did buy. Again, this was a shit week. But no, I was going to say is those those compilation, the grab bags, the dollar grab bags with 3 comics in it. That's I probably bought like 3 of them, 4 of them maybe even, to kind of, because I was ready to spend that money on other comics. Because again, I vaguely knew what comics were coming out because I would follow it, but you never really knew till you got there and you saw what was on the shelf that actually showed up. Okay, so again, let's close this out and I'll tell you what I'm thinking. And going in the future with these two, I'm going to still try as hard as I can to finish out the year doing these videos every week. Because I'm curious to see, I mean, I've looked through them, but it's nice when I spend a lot of time with each week intimately like this. You can really soak in what comes out. Because otherwise you're just clicking and just, you're not really paying it super close attention to it. But, yeah, like I said, it did not take long back then to carve down what I was buying to just a handful of titles. I think maybe 5 titles. And the thing was, like I said, I didn't have comic book backing words. I didn't get bags until I went to Troy Stamp and Coin, and they said, "Oh, you can buy comic book bags," and they were $2.50 or $2.99, one of the two. Is around for about the price of a G.I. Joe guy. You could buy 100 bags, and and you'd have to have some Scotch tape because they didn't have the sealable ones. And I bought and I started bagging all the comic books that I had, because at this time. Because this time, 85, I mean, I think I learned about Troy Stamp and Coin right around this time. 85. No, I didn't start going to Troy Stamp and Coin until fall. Yeah, I think it was, yeah. There's an incident with my dad that led up to that. But I remember, yeah, that wasn't until the fall of 85. Like almost Christmas, when I first went to Troy Stamp and Coin, which was like a comic book shop. I should make a video into itself of that place. It doesn't exist anymore, but that was a woo. But anyways, I would go there, and that's when I first started getting comic book bags. So all of the comics I had up until this point, I had them in I think I had a pair of Adidas shoes. I had a pair of Adidas, and I think I had a pair of Pumas at the time, or my sister had the Pumas, but I had 2 shoe boxes from shoes sitting in my room, and they were filled completely with comic books, and they were just like comic books should be, not bagged, not boarded, all stacked up inside these shoe boxes. And then the ones that my aunt was giving me, the ones with the ripped off covers, she gave me a grocery bag one time, and I kind of sifted through them and took out the ones I want. and they gave her the rest back. Actually, I think she told me to throw them out, the ones I didn't want. But so I started doing the same thing. I kept that same grocery bag sitting in the corner, and every time she'd bring me a grocery bag filled with them, I'd go through, take the comics that I want. I'd read them or look through them or whatever, and I'd toss them into that grocery bag sitting in the corner of my room. It was on I had like a weird bed thing. It was on the other side of the bed. And then all my other stuff, I think I had them just laying on the floor right next to my bed / couch thing. I had this weird bed setup at the time. And I would pull them up and I'd look through them, I'd spread them out, I'd put them in order, blah, 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 and I'd throw them back in the box. And then, so I might have had, by the time I got my first comic book box, I remember what it was. Sorry, I don't want to keep this one going forever. Got 5 minutes. I'll finish this 5 minutes. But anyways, my mom came home once because I believe she was either clearing at her desk or she ended up getting a different job. I think she got a different job. I think she worked for a company called City Animation at the time, which was they made local commercials, and she was the secretary at their office. And I just remember they did the President Tuxedo commercial. I know that one. But anyways, my mom worked as a secretary there. I think she ended up quitting because that job was going to relocate somewhere closer to Detroit, and she didn't like to drive at all. So they're moving out of Rochester, Troy area, and then she quit because she didn't want to drive. And I think she had a different job already lined up, so she ended up leaving the job. I recollect this better. And then she went to this other place, this plastics company, as a secretary, which was in town, north in the Rochester Hills part. But anyway, she came home and she had these, were called banker boxes. You know what banker box is, right? She brought these boxes home, and she's like, oh, I got all my stuff that I, from work or whatever, from my desk, I put it in this banker's box. And she said, it's funny, ironically, I got handed a banker's box a couple of times in my work life. So, I had to clear out my stuff, against my will. But anyways, she had this banker's box, and she says, oh, hey, well, you should take all your comic books and get them out of those shoe boxes and put them all in one big box. And so she gave me this banker's box, and I was like, okay, let me see. And so I took the banker's box, it was empty, and I put all of my comics on one side, and sure enough, you could fit all of the comics on one side, and you could fit another stack on the other side with maybe a gap, about maybe an inch or so gap in between, so they'd fit perfectly, and they were pretty close, so they didn't move around a lot. And I was like, oh, it's perfect for comic books. So I took all of them out of the shoe boxes, and I stacked them up in these stacks in this banker's box. And so by the time I filled up another one, I still kept shoe boxes around, because obviously when that got full, I needed something temporarily. When I had a bunch of comics again, then I filled up another banker's box. I think I even was going to one time incorporate in the ones with the missing covers, and I thought, no, I don't want to do that because they don't have covers or whatever. And then I thought, so one time I'm going to try to find the ones and try to find the covers. That's why when I look at the Conan comics, Dazzler comics, I don't remember the covers. That was the cover? Okay, sure. I didn't know until I started looking into the story. I was like, oh, okay, because I had the one without the cover. So I just wanted to close on that. And again, I'm dwindling down. I'm going to say probably by the next month, we've already, for the most part, gone through all of the main series titles that are ongoing. And I'm X-Men, Uncanny X-Men, Amazing Spider-Man, maybe. I might even lose interest, maybe, Spider-Man. I know it got better as it went, but G.I. Joe I always still liked. Like I said, I loved my G.I. Joe comics. I'm starting to like New Mutants at this time, so maybe that, but 5 comics maybe a month, outside of when Marvel Universe Handbook starts, I was getting that, and we'll go over that when it starts in there, and then Secret Wars, which I never read until now, but Secret Wars 2, so alright, I'm going to end this one, and I will catch you on the next one. So this will be the last week of April, week 17 from 1985, and I'll post it. You'll see it because it's posting opposed to next week, which will be the day that you see it. All right, so I will catch you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.